right, welcome everyone to Spirit Coffee Talk. I'm Ginette Biro, and with me is Elyse Richmond.
Hello.
Elyse wasn't able to be here today, so we send her a ton of love. But we have some good stuff to talk about. So, wow, is all I got to say. Lots of realizations, lots of pieces coming together, and it's interesting that these understandings from Spirit and this clear communication is coming together on uh, this eve or this cusp of new moon solar eclipse
Solar
in
eclipse.
December in
Yeah.
Sagittarius. Fire, fire, new transformation,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Didn't even think
So
of that.
Lisa got a ton of beautiful downloads, which I mean were really echoed in some of the cards I pulled too, and that's always a really neat thing when like download is pulled by physical cards. So we're gonna just lay it all out for you guys as we understand it,
And
and
you
just share.
pulled the cards before I told you the download.
Yeah,
And then I
exactly.
told you the download and you're like, do you want to know what my cards are?
Yeah,
It's pretty crazy. Okay, so
totally. So what
this
do you get?
this is what I got over the last couple days, but specifically last night. I got that we are in obviously a massive transition right now, and we have been since, the end of 2019, 2020, and then, last winter solstice was a big transition, and we're approaching solstice again, which I think kind of really aligns with this. And it's like when 2020 was finished, we thought, okay, are we going to go back to normal? And it's like, no, 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 there's 2021. And then we've experienced 2021 being like, oh no, that wasn't better. That wasn't better. It was just different intense, right? Um, and 2022 is the same, but more,
But more, yeah,
but more.
exactly. More.
And that might scare people, but like, hear me out.
Mhm.
Because we've talked about before this 4-year transition, and the transition being that of like change of what would be like 100 years of evolution is happening in 4. So of course it's going to be intense. And with transition at all, people, like, it can be hard. Change is difficult sometimes, right? And so how they explain this to me is that what is happening is that 2020 was like the bringing of COVID. What that was is it stopped. It stopped everybody in their tracks. Literally, they were inside. It stopped everybody and had to reevaluate what was going on around them. Like making new systems, work, family, like it was brought right into your attention. So it was like everybody had to stop. 2021 is like stop and then more.
And
Dig.
crumbling.
Right, digging. And it's like not only did we now observe what was going on, 2021 was like the breakdown of the systems that no longer work. And we're going to continue that systems are going to get continue to break down in 2022. But we're really seeing that, especially as we're wrapping up 2021, is look at these old systems that we're observing and being like, I don't think that works anymore.
Mhm.
How they explained it to me is that Earth is doing a major cleanse. So think of it as like a massive detox. If we do big detoxes, lots of times it comes to the surface and we'll see it in our skin. And it's because we're literally having the toxins from inside out moving out. And that's how they described it to me, is that outside source help from so many other beings have come together to help Earth's ascension right now. And so, I mean, many of you that doesn't align, which is fine. But many of you probably have had experiences, whether it's like vivid dreams or in meditation, where you're like, I think I feel like I saw like an outside source, like a light being, or just even like that a light source kind of thing. Where it's like I don't really know what that is.
Mhm.
It's these light beings that are coming in to really help Earth's ascension. So it's like they've come together in a way that hasn't been done since like way, 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 way before. And they're helping cleanse our earth, not only the physical earth, but the energy source around earth. So it's like the inner source of earth is pushing out
Mhm.
these toxins or these energies that no longer can be held within the earth's energy field.
Mhm.
So we can see it happening like physically on the earth plane. Like so much is going on globally of like the earth is changing significantly, and then we're seeing the energy being pushed out of kind of shedding the old. And how they described it to me is this shadow energy, this shadow
Mhm.
masculine. Now, I'm not saying they're pushing out men. I'm
Mhm.
saying
Not
the
gendered.
energy of the masculine and the shadow aspect of that, which has led, you know, ego, that wars, poverty, like systems, broken systems that are just terrible, right? That comes from a very shadow masculine energy, right? And shadow feminine as well. But
Mhm.
specifically right now is they're pushing out this shadow masculine. And so, what that's doing on an individual basis, it's making people are feeling it, and it is happening within us too. And
Mhm.
what that is doing is it's bringing to the surface that shadow part of self, which looks like childhood trauma or trauma in general, or, old family dynamics or old dynamics that are like that shadow part that we're like, no more. Our guides, our earth guides are saying, no more. And so all of a sudden we're being faced face to face with these situations with family members, right? Parents, with like our own systems because they're being broken down and detoxified. And so it's like we are face to face with that right now. And 2022 is going to be the same, but more, but good, because we're going to start to reevaluate what it is that no longer serves us, what that shadow holds.
Mhm.
We are going to be able to look at that. We're doing it right now and saying, well, with that holds this belief system and this thing that I've associated myself with, and the way that I've always done things based upon this perspective.
Mhm.
Well, it's not necessarily aligning anymore. It's not necessarily showing up in the same way. And we're like, do I actually really believe in that anymore? Do I actually associate myself with that perspective or that group or that dynamic anymore? No. But that's scary because then it means like, well, then who am I? If
Mhm.
we've identified ourselves with a shadow belief system that was given to us inauthentically as a kid,
Mhm.
it's really hard to detach from that perspective. And it can show up in like enmeshments and family dynamics where it's like, well, if I don't believe that, then I'm going to be outed by my family. I'm going to be out, and that doesn't feel safe. So I'm going to sit inauthentically and like burn up inside because I know it's not right. And that's where people are at right now. They're like, "Ugh, this doesn't feel right. I want to move forward, but how?" And it is happening, and it's happening whether you want it to or not, and it is for the greater good. And I want you to, anybody who's hearing this right now, trust that it is for the greatest good, and to surround yourself with people and find support systems that can help with this ascension, with this detox, with this perspective changer, right? And finding the people who can help support and nourish you in this ascension. So it's happening around us, our systems, our government, our education, our financial, our everything around us is detoxifying. So that's why people are a bit edgy, right? Systems are like they're holding on by a thread to this shadow perspective, and it's crumbling around us, and it's just going to continue happening. So the message doesn't sound necessarily like lovely, but it is. And
Mhm.
they want you to know that every single person, animal, being on this beautiful earth is being supported in this and helped. And there is like big help that has come in to help. And so if you're feeling like um an internal struggle with it, give yourself some space, and you can even ask your guides or ask, source, spirit, God, however you communicate, for help with this comfort, to help see the things that are going to bring you more into your light, to break down that shadow. Breaking down the shadow is hard,
Mhm.
but you're doing it, and you're doing it whether you want to or not. It's happening. So, like, pull yourself through to the light. Really ask yourself how you can feel and see light each and every day, right? And you'll be able to. And so I give you a ton of compassion and love, and that it's gonna keep going, but it's gonna keep going in the direction of up, of light.
Yeah.
And so trust that, and that people around you might be acting a little funny, especially masculine. There's a big masculine shift. So um a lot of the masculine energy is feeling wonky, and we're like, so allow yourself to make space for that around you too,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
that was a lot of me talking.
No,
You're
that's so great though, because I mean, it's very accurate to what's happening, and I think too, in addition to that, is like all like understanding that also lets us kind of recognize where we're at in our growth and
Mhm.
really like dial in on that because we may notice like things that used to bother me before don't bother me as much, and wow, hasn't 2021 allowed me this opportunity to change, and look how different I am December 2021 from December 2020, right? Like we can also recognize how much we have grown, which then also helps us have compassion for those that maybe haven't grown that much,
Mhm.
right? Or we can
Or
look to see
growing right
people,
now.
yeah,
Oh,
right? Or we can look to see people who seem to be moving through it okay and being like, okay, you know what? If they can do that, so can I. So
totally.
I'm going to dive in, right? Like we can really choose the perspective we wish to see this all from. Because, like you said, it's not bad. 2022 is going to be more, but it's more accompanied with more consciousness and more higher help,
More tools.
more
That's
tools.
it. You're gonna go more into it. It's gonna be more, but you're going to go in
Yeah.
with you're going in with more too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a powerful thing. Like we're not being left out in the dust. And I know a lot of messages I keep sharing over and over is like you take one step, the universe is going to step with you. It's going to match you step for step, and they keep saying it over and over. So I love that that's coming through you too, because it really is this reinforcement of like we all decided to come here at this time to
Yep,
be a part of this change, both
totally.
for the collective and part of shifting humanity, but also for our personal soul's journey.
Hmm.
So we're journeying as an individual as we are in the collective for reasons, right? So it's like dig into those reasons and then thrive in those reasons and
Totally.
grow in those reasons,
Totally.
right?
So they're saying too, like when we did decide as souls to come in and experience this, remember that every soul came in to experience it in a different capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So with these polarities right now, I really encourage you to, like, if somebody is saying, no, this is the way it is, and you're like, absolutely not, it's not like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Understand that literally the glasses in which they're wearing right now see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is the way that their soul has come into experience that particular situation. And who are we to change that? Because it's not ours. It's just literally different. You
Yeah.
can see the exact same thing and it can be completely different. And that's okay. I know it's easier said than done, right? Like when people are like, well, other people have different perspectives than you, like accept other people's perspectives. Be like, but they're wrong, right?
Yeah.
No, they're
Uh,
not. What if they just are not wrong? That is literally the eyes in which they see it. They
mhm.
came in to experience that in that capacity. That's why we're seeing such complete different things. It's like not only are they seeing it differently, they're experiencing it differently, they're ascending differently, they are processing completely differently based upon all of their experiences thus far.
Mhm.
So, like, really allow for that space, because the more space we allow someone else to have, the more space we create for our own existence.
And with that too is also like that's their perspective, but their purpose here too may also differ. And so for some people who are like
It does
really
differ.
passionate about something, like this is how it should be, and we should be changing something and doing something and writing letters and this and this and this,
Yeah.
for somebody else, that might not be their purpose.
No,
Their role on the planet in this lifetime is not to be the activist, but maybe their role is
totally.
to be the safe space,
Mhm.
the recalibrating space. Whereas maybe somebody else's
Totally.
space is to be a teacher of
Sure. Yeah.
like we all hold different roles too. So it's recognizing people's perspectives, but also their roles and their callings.
Right.
Right? Because it takes a lot of different things to make a great shift.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always say it takes a lot
So
of
what
different
do you
things.
think, like, what do you think, this is kind of personal, but like, what do you think, like, have you dug into what yours is?
I really think I just hold light and I keep reminding people of higher consciousness perspectives.
Yeah, you're a teacher with that for sure.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of what I do. Bring in
Yeah.
channel light stuff. Not
Yeah.
all like rosy, like I just talk about rainbows and butterflies, even though I did just talk about rainbows. But um,
I love
like
talking about rainbows and butterflies.
so many analogies and rainbows.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that really feels aligned with me. How about
Yeah.
you?
That's an interesting question. I think that to a point, like I've done teaching for sure, in a literal sense, like teaching like yoga or teaching people perspectives on this, but I think more like definitely a channel. That's a big part of it. But it's like how I see it is interesting because how spirit has showed me so much is how to make changes starting with the kids. So my a big purpose of mine has
Mm,
always been with children.
yeah.
And so yeah, like I have 4 and I
Mhm.
love that. But like even my nieces and nephews and like and it doesn't have to be little kids, like teens are a big one for me too. I really connect with the teenager and helping to bring light to their lives in order for them to see their own light and how they can like why they're here. You know,
Mhm.
why are like help them find what exactly what we're talking about, what their light is, what they're, you know? And I think they've showed me that by doing that, it causes the ripple effect outwards. And that's like part of my light work to for the greater good of humanity is being able to help these littles find their light to be able to create that ripple effect. And I'm not saying I do all this light for littles, but like that's who I'm drawn to is
Mhm.
the kids
Yeah.
for sure. And they like they've shown me that forever since I was little.
And it feels right for you, right? Like, and I think that's something people need to do with this whole thing. Because again, in my near death experience, the biggest lesson I brought back from Spirit was choice is our greatest gift.
Mhm.
We choose what we do with situations. And so,
I love that.
if people are wondering, like, what do I do in this position and where the world is, it's like find your center. And then what are you feeling called to do about that center? And then what is your choice, right?
Totally.
Like step by step, like find your thing and then what do you want to do about it,
Mhm.
right? So I mean, I think that's great that you're offering that perspective and how that's your calling, and mine is slightly different. And I think when we're willing to look at what that is or discover what it is, because some people are like, I don't know what it is, it's like be willing to try stuff. I mean, I've tried a ton of things.
So have I.
About like
I get
what is
thinking
my
about that all the time.
yeah, right? And so it's like be willing to try it, to try on different shoes to find which one you like the best.
100%. And
Right.
understand that like everyone else is trying on shoes too. And so we can see that. Like I feel like sometimes when I see that, I'm like, oh, they're wearing the wrong shoes and they don't even know it.
Mhm.
You can give them compassion versus being like, you suck at what you do. Right?
Fair. Probably not the most nurturing way to let them know maybe they should
But it
change
can be
course.
frustrating, right? Like when you're working alongside people or you are confronted with somebody that's wearing the wrong shoes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, hopefully they'll find it. And that's another thing because they're just like, bing, bing, bing. That's what this is about. That's what the change is about, is letting people know that sometimes they've been wearing the wrong shoes for like 25 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to take them off can be tough.
Yeah.
But that's essentially the goal is that people can make these choices so that they do find this alignment.
Hmm.
And part of that is removing all the other shoes that they thought were, you know, like that's the detox.
Yeah.
That's the shadow stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Totally. So I want to mention these cards that I'd pulled before because it's just really timely, and I always love when they amplify a message. So the first one was the golden stars, this one, and it says the stars are lining up for the perfect opportunity now. Right? So this is like representative of the universe really helping like in many ways, from the literal astrological alignments to all these solar eclipses, solar flares, light beings. Like the universe is aligning to make this the perfect opportunity to be diving in like we are.
No mistakes.
No
Like this has
mistakes.
been planned for a long time.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the next one is the supernova card. And this one is an aspect of your personality like the ego self, must die to make way for a new shiny star to be born. So it's kind of like what we're saying, like what needs to be released in this detox, things that are coming up that need to be released so that you can be shinier. Just like
Hmm.
detoxes, stuff comes up, comes out, so you can feel better,
Hmm.
right? Hold a higher energy. That's exactly that. And then followed by this card that says onward and upward. Let go of the past so you can be present and create the future you desire, which is really consciously choosing
Yeah,
along the whole path. Like you have to let go of stuff to make space for new stuff. We can't
totally.
create from space that's been bogged down and filled with old, outdated garbage.
Yeah,
Excuses? Maybe
yeah,
that's a nicer way to say it.
totally.
Um, yeah. So
Those like are really supportive cards for sure.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. I couldn't have like planned that better myself. So that was quite beautiful. So I don't know. I think that's a great place to wrap it up. What about you?
Yeah, perfect.
Any more messages coming through at
No,
all?
no, it's just very much about allowing. Okay, this is the kind of the final thing, though. Okay,
Okay.
when you were talking about releasing the old, kind of so that you can be shiny. Here's the thing: during a detox, when things come to the surface, that's the hardest part. Okay, so when we start a cleanse, it's like okay, day one, did you? And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I got a headache and I feel sick to my stomach. And it's like, that's because the toxins are coming to the surface, right? You're releasing them and it feels gross. And
Mhm.
so when this stuff is coming up, lots of times we'll be like, nope, that feels gross. Back up. I'm not dealing that. Down it goes again. Inevitably it's going to come up. But here's the thing. If we keep pushing it down every time it comes up again, it's going to be worse. It's going to be not worse, more intense.
Mhm.
Because they're saying, no, you must look at this. It's time to let it out. You know what I mean? So, like, give yourself some love with this. So, when it comes up, give yourself space to be with that because it can be hard. And it's like childhood trauma, ugh, right?
Mhm.
Like, you're looking at it and it feels hard. And they're saying, like, specifically, don't hang out in the trauma. That's not what this is about. It's not just bringing it to the surface so that we can re experience it. That's not what they're saying. When it comes up, it's a chance to be with that part of yourself,
Mhm.
to love them and give them space and compassion so that you can be with that part of self, love them, nurture them, and say, it's you and me now. We got this. Right. And then it's the trauma that goes. It's not like that whole bit and you're like, hey, never going to see you again. Because that part of self that experienced that needs your love so much. So when it comes up, allow yourself to be with that part of self. All and it can be multiple parts of self. Those
Mhm.
uncomfortable situations, those uncomfortable feelings as we're detoxing, be with that part of self and so much compassion and love. Go for a walk. Find something beautiful to show that part of self. Look at this beautiful forest.
Mhm.
I brought you here because you deserve it. Like
Mhm.
you're like talking to that aspect of self so that that can feel love and support, and then it's the trauma part that doesn't have to be attached to that aspect of self anymore. Does that make sense?
Totally. It's beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. Okay, well, I think these are some really beautiful things to ponder as we move through December too. So
Yeah.
lovely that the guides came through with all of that in the ways that they did. So, thank you everyone for watching. If
You.
you're joining us for the first time, welcome and thank you. Please do subscribe and share. Also, check out avalonspirit.com. We have lots of different ways that you can explore your consciousness there. Um, Lots of different journey guides, offerings for information, education, and also check out Avalon Spirit Group on Facebook. We are posting on there every day, lots of stuff going on, interesting stuff to learn there too. So thank you all so much, and we will see you again next week.
Tune in Mondays to Jeanette's podcast too.
Oh, yes,
Very
that
insightful.
also.
Lovely.
Thanks. All right, everyone. See you later.
Bye.